Hey everybody, it's Carolyn Edlund. I'm the founder of Artsy Shark. Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel today. I have a topic of great interest, I think, to anyone who is online with their art, which is pretty much everyone. And if you're watching this, you are as well. Um, it's about ChatGPT, which is in the news, and it's a very useful tool, which I love and which I also hate. And I want to talk about some of the benefits for artists and how it might help you, but then also kind of the downside of it and things to watch out for. So let's get started. OpenAI is the company that developed ChatGPT, which is an artificial intelligence tool to help with writing. I'm going to link to that in the description to in this video below. And it's really useful for writing because it writes really well. All the spelling is correct. All the grammar is going to be correct. So if you need help writing anything, whether you're writing an email, whether you're doing a guest article for someone, maybe you are applying for a grant and you need help to write your grant application. Maybe you need help writing a new about page for your website. It can be really helpful. You need to prompt it by giving it enough information so that it can use what you need in that generated content. So for example, if you say, well, I want to write an about page about myself, and I am an oil painter, I am from this country, and this is my chosen style, and this is what inspires me, and this is the techniques I use, it'll put together a really nice bit of content for you that you might use for your about page. But if you don't really like it, or you want to switch it up or add more, it will just click create content again, and it will regenerate over and over again so that you get immediate response over and over in different ways. If you wanted to have a kind of a witty tone to it, or a very academic tone, it will do that to adjust for you. So it's really super useful in anything that you want to create. Let's say you want to write an email to your mailing list, something for your next email campaign. You can get it to not only generate content, which you can then edit as you choose, but it's really super useful for subject lines and titles. I love this and I use it all the time. So you might ask it, suggest 5 subject lines for an email about the newest show that I'm going to be appearing in New Jersey for this type of exhibition. And then it will generate it. But maybe you say, well, I want all of these suggestions to be 7 words or less because it's going to go in my email. Then it will regenerate. And maybe you get something for the subheader. So it's really good at generating ideas, and then you can pick and choose what you like from what it has said. If it makes mistakes or it is assuming something incorrect, you can ask it to correct those parts, and it learns from what you're asking it. So I find it super useful for writing. So again, whether you're writing some content for your website, let's say some product descriptions for artwork that you have on your product pages where your shopping cart is, and you can check out, add a couple of descriptive sentences about each piece. That's going to help the customer better understand your work. So for that type of a use, I love ChatGPT. Do keep in mind though, and here's some of the downside and what I don't like so much about it. ChatGPT is very general when it writes. It's not going to get way down into specifics, and you're going to have to do some editing, whether it's personalization that you need to add to it, or sometimes just knowledge that you have. I've asked ChatGPT to write for me, and it's written things that I know are just simply not true. And so it doesn't really know that those things aren't true, or it just will make up things at times, which is a bit disconcerting and can be really frustrating. Here's something that I also discovered that is a super useful tool sometimes, and that is that there is a ChatGPT for Google extension that you can add onto your browser, and it helps with search. So that if you go into search and you're looking for some information, it will open ChatGPT, which will start generating content immediately right alongside of your search results so that you don't have to go through, pick and choose all of these different potential links to get information. That could be really useful. Now, I was using it the other day and I found a downside. I was invited to be a guest on a podcast and I was not familiar with this podcast. So I searched for the podcast and this ChatGPT opened and it started talking about this podcast and all the things that they do and they do this and they do that. And then I asked it, well, please provide a link. It didn't have a link because it said, well, there actually is no podcast that we could find with that name. So we just made up all this information, which was not very useful, not very helpful. And I did eventually find the podcast, but through no assistance from ChatGPT. I was not very happy with it. So I went into the extension, and I'm going to link to that in the paragraph below in the description of this video is this particular extension. And I went into the extension options. You can have ChatGPT give you generated content anytime that you search, or only if you put a question mark after your search, which is what I opted for, or only when you manually click a button. So you can control that. And I think I'm going to use that only when I decide to get results from them. However, it can be really useful. It can give you fake information. You pretty much got to be able to proofread, make sure that you agree with what the content is, especially if you want to use it. You wouldn't want it to just write an article for you and just sight unseen publish that, because you may be coming up with some wrong information that just is not helpful at all. It's still early days for ChatGPT, and even though it was only introduced literally months ago, it's, I think, like the number 14 most popular website on the internet. So people are going there in droves. You should check it out. Use it as you see fit. Is it useful for you? What can you use it for that's really helpful? And where do you want to stay away? So check it out. Let me know what you think of ChatGPT and whether you love it or hate it.